We did pretty well. In comparison to December 21, we've had a 17.4% increase in our dividend payment for that period. And most of our metrics, in fact, all of them are heading the right way. Our vacancies have improved from where we were June of 5.3% down to 4.8%. Our tenant retention remains high. Our covenants are pretty good. The different parts of our diversified business are all coming through. So that's enabled us to have this meaningful increase in our dividend per share that we're paying out.
When you look at aspects within, rental reversion and vacancy picture, what are you seeing across the portfolio?
So we're fortunate in that our vacancies have been improving. We're better than the SAPOA averages, and we've consistently been getting better. So on the vacancy side, it's great that the space is more let now than it used to be. We're not back in terms of where we were in 2019. We're sitting at 4.8%. In 2019, we were sitting in the low 3% on an overall portfolio basis. Our reversions, which is the expiring rental versus what the new rental is that you've entered into with new tenants, is now sitting at a negative 9%. That used to be as high as negative 15%. And so we're obviously taking that pain. But importantly, we're let. Importantly, we've got a very decent weighted average lease expiry profile. Our escalations that we've been achieving on our new leases still remains in the mid sixes, so that's positive. But at the same time, we've also got utility pressures and cost pressures keep on coming through. Obviously, the most topical one is load shedding and what those costs are and how to recover those from our tenants, which we do a large proportion of. So those are just some of the things that we have to deal with. But I think from those operational metrics, we're certainly heading in the right direction in terms of improving.
The one thing you mentioned is, especially when it comes to the industrial sector, it's quite strongly linked to the broader economy. And I'm glad that you brought up the issue of the rolling power cuts. The impact that the power cuts could have on the industry, and how do you see that affecting you? And also, how do you see that sector performing?
Yeah, so the industrial sector certainly takes a knock. And if I just look at it from an overall perspective, we've got 77% of our entire property portfolio have backup generators. And there's really only 4 buildings that don't have generators. And funny enough, those are in the industrial sector. We do focus in on the smaller multi-tenanted industrial parks, which we like. They're harder work. They are let to a diverse base of tenants. But it's quite interesting in that you might have a manufacturing tenant or someone that uses a lot of electricity together with someone that's right next door to someone that doesn't use much electricity, that can work comfortably in terms of packing boxes or whatever they're doing when there's load shedding. So as a landlord, it makes it complicated because if you do provide backup generators through to that particular office park, it's I need all the tenants to pay. Otherwise, it becomes unaffordable for one tenant to pick up the entire generation costs across that entire park. So these are some of the challenges that we've had to deal with. We've been involved in renewables and solar since our first one that we implemented back in late 2015. So we've learned a huge amount under that. But we mustn't deny that the impact on the economy, the impact on our tenants is severe. When we hit load shedding level 5 and 6 in December and a little bit in January, this draws a huge amount out of one's working day, out of one's productive time. And I can't turn around to, for example, to staff members in the business and say, well, I'm only going to pay you while the electricity is on because I'm paying you on an hourly basis and so on. So the impacts are severe, but I did listen to the President talk on the State of the Nation address on Thursday night. And for me, some of the right steps are being taken. And I think that the thing that you must never forget is that South Africans are a resilient crowd. We always make a plan. And I think the more that this private sector realizes that we've got to do it for ourselves and not rely on government, not rely on a centralized function as much as electricity probably should be done on that, the more we take it into our own hands, the more we will be masters of our own destiny. And I think that's busy taking place. So it is challenging for the industrial sector, but I think we'll come through it.
Let's take things stateside for a bit. Your sense of the U.S. economy and that environment and the effect it could possibly have on your exposure on that side.
So we've got 17% of our total assets invested into the U.S. across 12 open-air power centers, the grocer anchors, and across the mid, south, and southeastern parts of the U.S. with our partners. And we've seen, in terms of the way that portfolio has been run and how it's performing, our occupancies have improved from basically 95.5% up to 97.5%. We have waiting lists of tenants to come into our centers. And there is that economy is slowing down, but have a look at the employment numbers, have a look at the GDP growth numbers, and they are still there. There's an unbelievably strong economy. And if you've focused your investments in on what we think is the right sector to focus in, which is the value-orientated tenant offerings, that people, the essentials, the grocer anchors, that people will need through thick and thin, you're going to be okay. So we've seen the increase in our distributable income for this 6-month period, which compares 12 assets against 11 assets in the previous period. We come out pretty well in terms of where we were in terms of COVID. So I wouldn't ever bet against the US economy. It's a strong economy. Those Americans are capitalists at heart, and they do things really well. And so that's an important part of our business. And you've seen that that's had a positive impact on this 6 months distributions. And we expect it to continue to play a bigger role as we hopefully add on more assets into the future. And what we're experiencing is more rand weakness. So that will also come through. I think it's a strong economy.